and share and whatnot on Facebook. Say we're on. Put the phone number out there. That'd be really great. How you doing?
The link. Where's the
I'm
link?
great. How are you?
I'm fantastic. My name's TJ. This is City Talk Fall River.
My name is Derek, aka the Tornado.
My name is Nikki.
And she was the moderator.
No,
if
I
I'm
was
not
not a
mistaken.
moderator. I was a panelist.
Kind of like what our old titles were. On
No. That was what Ben Farabini called you guys. I never called you guys panelists, okay? I have always said you, Ed, and Nikki were my co-hosts, always.
I consider myself a contributor, and I'm fine with that.
And shout out to Edward Costa, doing very well for himself right now.
I've been hearing.
Yeah. I see a Edward Costa sign on every single street in Fall River.
I do. I know. I see a lot of them.
And he's working it. And the other thing too is he's coming from a good place. I wish that some of the school committee people had debates. I think that's the only thing missing.
Well, I'm not going to get too deep into school committee debates because we have quite a few debates that we can definitely talk about today. But I was watching some of these stuff on FYG TV. I was watching a lot of the school committee subcommittees, and there's one person on that committee who's, I mean, if this city could just do away with her, and I'm not talking about the superintendent.
Derek's already shooting. Derek comes in guns blazing.
I'm sorry.
We're at 9:01, and he's already ready to rock somebody.
I got a bucket full of ammo, and I'm not afraid to use
You know what, man? Go ahead, man. Do your thing.
Do I really have to go through?
Give it to him.
All right.
Hey, the views and opinions that are expressed by Derek Morgado do not represent the council, Trottley for city council in any way, shape, or form. Go ahead, keep going, Derek Morgado.
Wow.
Tornado.
So anyway,
That
Melissa
was a high
Panchley,
five.
I think the problem I have with her is that any time that the conversation does not go her way, she sits in her chair like a petulant child ready to cry.
Petulant.
I mean, she just gives this scowl on her face. She's all dejected and
Wait a minute, you're saying she looked like Helen Rigo last night when I was like laughing at some of the things that were going on at the mayoral debate last night?
Yes.
I got you.
Well, actually, Helen Rigo looks like that all the time. So.
She really you know what? I am super nice to her, and she just looked at me and made some comment and turned her. I was like, wow.
I was driving to the debate last night, and well, I promise we'll talk about that in a minute. I was driving to the debate last night, and she was crossing she was going, I think, to Dave Dennis's office or something. And
is that on Winter Street on the north end?
Yeah, right
Okay.
around in that area.
Yeah.
And of course I was, I'm usually when people want to cross, I let them go. And she's like, she's like, well, thank you, but she has that like look of disgust on her face all the time. I don't know if that's just from years of whatever, but it's just, I don't know, it's just unwelcoming.
I could understand if I was making jokes at her, being mean to her, or her kids, because her kids, very, very vocal and anti, whatever, recall, whatever you want to call it. But I was sitting right there during the mayoral debates, and they were just looking at me, sneering, making comments. I'm like, am I bad looking or something? Do I have a problem right now? It was kind of interesting. Yeah, Nick.
Well, what I was going to say is we in Fall River tend to have BRF, which is bitchy resting face. I'll go ahead and say it.
I have never heard of that before in my life.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I have it. Oh, yes, I do. If I'm walking down the street or something, you don't know who I am. Everybody's like, smile, smile. All right. But then if think about this.
If the trash sanitation place was good, then you would be smiling all the time. You'd be smiling all the time. I'm cutting people off today.
That's okay.
Because I had a nice debate on Monday. I'm just saying.
We'll get into that. Don't worry. You're going to shine in a minute.
Yeah. We'll give you your light. We won't dim your light.
You will shine bright like a diamond. Don't worry. Yeah, I did.
A diamond in the sky.
Sorry, keep going.
Okay. Anyway, imagine if Helen Rigo walked around all day with a smile on her face. We would think something was up, right?
Yes.
Okay, so let's just say that. Just because somebody has a not so smile on their face isn't necessarily a bad thing.
Necessary.
Oh, did you guys all see me last night with that necessary?
Every time you said necessary, that look on your face, you get eyes wide and you smiled. It was great.
Nikki, finish that thought on the Helen Rigo piece.
I did.
Oh, is that all of it?
Yeah, that's her
Oh,
resting face.
all right,
She
all
would
right,
walk
all
around
right,
with a smile all day.
Oh,
It wouldn't
okay.
look so hot.
All right, I'm
She'd
sorry.
look like crazy.
I just feel as though I said something about how everyone hates people, or people in this room hate each other because of politics, and I think it's really sad that that's the way it is, because you would think that if there's a problem in this city, we'd be able to come together to try to solve it, But me just sitting there bothered them. I wasn't clapping. I didn't clap for anybody except at the end, just for give everybody a round of applause. It was just a little disturbing that much, hate can come out of this just because you like purple bags and someone doesn't, or you want the $10 fee and somebody doesn't. It's actually it's disheartening to see that, to be honest. So I just wanted to make that point.
That was very nice. But it's true. I say it all the time. Just because you just disagree politically doesn't mean you have to be at each other's throats. And what was weird, it was weird being on stage last night. I loved the honor, and it was the best spot for me to see the debate. But from my standpoint, I got to look out in the audience. So I got to see people, like at the very beginning, everybody was kind of doing their thing. But then I noticed it was almost like a competition for claps, so you had there were 3 people who were off to the right who would almost have a heart attack. It was like they were palpitating while they were clapping so hard. So I thought that was a little bit funny. They talk about sometimes that it's the candidates who aren't acting so great. But last night, from my standpoint, there were a few people in the audience who were definitely overboard.
And that's not to say it was for any one candidate, right?
No,
Okay.
It was from both sides, to be honest. There was certain things said about Sutter, certain things were said about Jordan, certain things were said about Robert Alexander, which I didn't really appreciate. We're at a debate. It's give everybody the respect. So.
I know when Robert Alexander did a lot of speaking at the mayoral debate, there was a little bit of mumbling. There was a lot of awkward moments when he spoke. However, I got to give him a little bit of credit. He made some key points that actually got some people to give him a round of applause a few times. So I give him a little bit of credit for that. I mean, I don't think I'm not trying to be insulting. I just don't think he's a serious candidate. I actually think that as far as Richard Renzi goes and Robert Alexander goes particularly, those guys could probably, maybe if they focus their efforts on, a cause in the city, like, hey, let's do a dispensary for needles, and let's do something like, for public safety or something like that. Like if they got behind a cause in the community, if they really focus their efforts, they can be able to be effective in that way. Nothing they said to me implied that they could be mayoral candidates. Jordan, a lot of people have had a hard time taking him seriously. A lot of people have been saying he's a better council candidate than he is a mayoral candidate. A lot of people, don't feel he's a candidate for anything at all. They think he might be a little unstable. He talks fast. He gets ahead of himself. He definitely goes hard at people. But I think that in between all of that, there were some key points. There were some statistics he threw out there, things that you didn't, I don't think in the past expected him to come out and do, and he did. And, I think that of the 5, you got your Sutter people, you got your Jazel people. Those are the popular ones. But if you're not comfortable with those 2, I think Jordan at least did his part to make a case that if you don't like these 2, maybe I'm an option, at the very least. So I think the city, I think this every time we have a mayoral candidacy, people come out of the woodwork all over the place. But I believe the city has candidates out there, the people that don't want to involve themselves. But I think the city has people out there that can become good candidates. They just got to get more involved.
We'll continue the discussion on this one for a second, but I agree. You have your Rob Alexanders who were up there, and I think he was a complete deer in the headlights. He didn't expect a lot of what he saw. A lot of the rhetoric. Hold on, I'm getting to that one in a minute. A lot of the rhetoric that he kept throwing out there was just, I know at the end he just decided to go all in with his whole marijuana facility. I'm like, oh dear God. Renzi, I mean, any potential of having him being a credible candidate was completely ruined last night. I've never seen such a crash and burn by any person in the history of me watching debates, and that's probably only been like 2 years. So, but that was pretty bad. I mean,
I think that Renzi made absolutely just a very poor case to become the mayor. But again, I think there's potential for him to do something else in the community. I don't think he's a complete waste of whatever, blah, blah, blah. I'm not here to bash the guy.
No.
I've talked to him, a handful of times. He was nice to me. That's all I can say. I think he's a little too focused on trying to become the mayor, and I haven't seen him at any of our cleanups. I haven't seen him at any of the, events like that. I just seen him trying to become the mayor. He was at our Angels Anonymous fundraiser, right? And he was passing out cards trying to get votes, and I'm thinking to myself, like, if he was actually involved in talking about the actual reasons why people are doing a fundraiser instead of trying to become, trying to get everyone to get his vote, I think he would, I think he would be more accessible to the community in that way. But no one knows who he is. He's out of nowhere, and he just, I want 50% of the people who don't vote to vote for me.
And I mean, his opening statement with him apologizing to the city, to the citizens. God.
Confused me.
I was trying to figure out what he was talking about.
You have no idea.
I want to first apologize to the citizens of this thing of the city. I'm like, all right. So anyway, all right. So those are those two. Then you have Jordan, who, I mean, we kind of figured that, if kind of going off of his city council debate, that he was going to probably start attacking. And of course, he didn't disappoint. But when he did say what he needed to say, it was very clear. It was and it was very understood that this was a direction that he wanted to go. I was actually extremely proud of Jordan. Not saying actually, I was very proud of Jordan. He did himself very well last night. Then of course you had Jazel, who I think he killed it. Wrong, right?
Oh, I'll agree.
All right, I think Jazel just. I mean, for someone who's 22 years old, going after someone who's completely older than he is, was completely.
Yeah, I think I don't think there was any question who owned the room that last night. It was very clear,
and there was definitely no question on who was completely sour after the night. Explained by his immediate absence of the debate was one current sitting there, C. Samuel Sutter. He was nowhere to be found within minutes of the whole thing concluding.
Oh, my opinion now, we can go. Again, on stage, I had a different view than everybody else. And I can say, if we want to go down the line, I typically am not a fan of Robert Alexander. I feel like he always pulls me on his little roller coaster ride of emotions and all that. So I like to back off of that. But I will give him this. Last night, he did, as Trot said, he had a few key points. And I felt bad for him last night because I felt like the audience, no matter what he said, they weren't giving him a chance. I don't think he spoke very clearly either. He could have spoken a little bit more sternly and clearly, but that was for him. As far as Jazel, I think at the beginning, he was a little bit on the slower side, but then it picked up. And I will give Jazel this. When he was talking about a story about somebody coming up to him, he said his name was Jaziel. He didn't say Jazel.
Yes,
so I was like he said his name wrong. So, okay, that was just a point taken from Nikki on the stage.
I hate when that happens.
Yes, I was not happy about that. Then we had Renzi, who I felt like he didn't belong. Like those things you do in school, which one doesn't belong? That was Renzi. He didn't add anything to me. There was no real rebuttal. He didn't have anything to back up anything he said except for that paper that I saw that paper like 100 times, his 100-day plan.
Not to cut you off, but what that thing reminded me of is, like, I don't know if anyone used to watch or still does watch wrestling, but when they have those contract signings, quote unquote, and it's just a piece of paper that has like a little has like a logo on it with some blah blah blahs and 2 lines. That's what that thing looked like. I mean, it was a big prop, and I'm like, what is actually behind that? Because it looked pretty.
I swear it was one piece of paper, and it just said 100-day plan on the front of it. I really kept looking at it because I couldn't understand. I'm like, where is this 100-day plan? I've never even heard of it.
I feel as though he was just way too focused on like I'm running because my friends told me to run. Did he really talk about what the city, like his connection to the city? You know, did he talk about like, you know, why he wants to, you know, why he cares so much about running or anything like that? It was more like I'm running because like, you know,
A group of people told me to.
Like I'm running because I want to run. I'm running because like, you know, the people aren't happy with their choices, so I'm just gonna make them unhappier with my choice. It didn't make a lot of sense where it was coming from.
What I caught a lot from him was I was in Providence. I moved back here 3 years ago, and I want to say I'm sorry to the voters. That's what I heard, clear as day. After that, you would have. I mean, I'd have to spend days trying to decipher every stutter that he had. I was just like. The greatest part was that I believe it was the second question in where he had the I'm not sure if it was Tonio Texera that asked him the question. He went on his whole tangent and then he goes back to, did you mention something about the budget? And then Antonio was like, no. Do you want me to reread the question to you again? I almost died.
If you have to reread the question, that means like that's already telling the voters where your mind is at.
Yep.
Or how,
I wouldn't agree with that.
Well, no, how focused can you be if you're in a debate where you're trying to get people to listen to you, to listen to your message? I'm not talking about once or I'm talking about like almost every time that what was the question? What was it? It was very, even the people in the crowd were like, huh?
Alexander did it too.
Right. Even the people in the crowd were not like, we're not feeling that. They're like, come on, get engaged. If we know what's going on, you need to know what's going on. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that, you know, sometimes people like, I want to make sure I get the question right. People were asking last night, can you repeat the question? Because they were not listening. They were distracted. And there's a difference between wanting to get all the details right and just completely having, you know, being way overly distracted on things.
Okay, I want to finish my
Go
thing.
For it.
Sorry.
So as of Renzi really pretty much not being any kind of a contributor as far as I was concerned as a resident and a voter. Next, you go on to Jordan. And at the beginning, I thought for sure that he was going to get carted off or taken out, especially because we had an officer there. I really thought he was going to get taken out. I thought he was going to get extra loud. But to my surprise, and I was very proud of him, he reined it back in. So that's how I felt. He reined it back in. He announced to everybody on stage that I was his babysitter in the past. So I do have that. The protection pot, like I want to protect him. But anyway, I thought he did a fabulous job. What I found interesting was at the beginning when he was saying all of the points he had about Sutter and why he's not a great mayor. If you looked at Sutter, he was shaking his head, yes. Mm-hmm. So when you talk about somebody not paying attention and not listening, from my standpoint, Sutter wasn't listening at all because as Jordan's basically dogging him, he's shaking his head in agreement, yes. But when he realized what Jordan was saying, he quickly, and it was the look on his face, I'm literally going to find the part of the video because I was right there. His face, he was like, oh, no, that's not what it is. And he was like, no, then started shaking his head, no. But at that point, he really wasn't listening to a lot of what anybody was saying, only when it got to him, which is why if you notice, he at times was like, oh, what is he saying? Acting like he wasn't going to answer it, like it was beneath him. That wasn't it. It was that he truly wasn't listening.
Mm-hmm. A lot of things that Sutter did that was kind of disturbing was the incessant. I mean, and if you're debating for the position of mayor or even city council, I mean, you want to just kind of stick to the points. You want to fight your point. You want to fight your argument. You want to get people to your side. I found it extremely crazy that Sutter had to spend 30 to 45 seconds talking about Jordan's point or talking him down before he got to his point. That's basically half of his time. I mean, get to your point. Don't waste time going after him. And that's all you had to do. You going after Jordan made you no better than anyone else on that panel. I mean, I think he has a lot of regrouping to do before tonight, because if he doesn't, I don't see him making it past primaries.
Every single election, no matter what election it is, if you're the incumbent, you're going to have people targeting you, no matter what it is. And as the incumbent, if you feel as though you're ready for that position to be the target at a debate, you have to be able to defend yourself with, you have to a little bit rise above it. You can definitely rebut people and stake your claim. But I think that he was actually looking to be the aggressor and go at people himself. And I think that's when incumbents and they usually lose their composure. And he absolutely lost his composure when he said, "I'm gonna find Jordan." Like when he went into that,
it'll be his mission.
That was the greatest moment on stage. I will probably say that's going to be one of my most favorite moments in history, because he said it with such gusto, didn't he? Yeah. Like he was really going to go and find Jordan and take Jordan to court.
And really what you got to see there was a person in position of power saying, "I'm going to use my power against you." And he got,
it was
like,
classic.
His face got all, this is exactly the kind of thing that we've been talking about when it comes to the, to that position of power in government and how they see people. Oh, you know what? I am going to find you, as if it's like, I'm coming at you, right? I'm going to use my position of power to go at you. That's the kind of thing we've been trying to avoid. And it was perfect that, Sam just went right at it and said it, because now you can see what we're talking about. How if you challenge the government, they're trying to put the hammer down on you. They're not trying to explain to you, "Hey, we need this. This is what we need to do, blah, 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 blah." No. I'm going to come at you. I'm going to make it my personal mission. You ever have a mayor saying something like that? I'm sorry. I know I'm tangent. I know. I'm sorry.
You're doing fine. No, you're doing fine. Keep going.
You ever have a mayor actually making those sentences and saying that? There is a problem. That is not a good thing. I know there's going to be a lot of people on WSAR, maybe on, whatever Facebook page you're on, that are going to say, "Oh, that was Sam Sutter showing he had backbone and blah, 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 and he's not going to be bullied." You never want to see your mayor say, "I'm going to use my position of power to come at you." You never want to. I don't care what Jordan was saying to that guy last night. You never want your mayor to be saying that. Period.
I loved that the mayor said that. I really do. And people might be like, "Oh," like somebody had posted on Throw Up in Fall River that anybody who's for Jordan getting a fine is like evil. And I said, hold on a second. I clapped too, because if you rewind that video, I was like, "Woo!
Yes, you were.
Fine Jordan," because I know that it's a baloney ordinance. I know that once it actually gets to court, Jordan would win. So when Sutter says, "You know what? I'm going to take you to court. I'm going to make sure you see that fine," to me, I'm like, all right, now we're finally getting somewhere. Because he has to back it up.
Did you notice that? Yeah, nice. Did you notice that? How he deferred, like how he made mention that 200 or however many hundred people got the
200
people got the fine, but did you see how he brushed it off on as to why? The magistrate, he completely buried the magistrate and said it's because the magistrate pretty much threw it away. And I'm like, you just threw the magistrate right under the bus. So that was one of the things that I was just like, that's unbelievable. The other part was in his opening statements when Sutter said, "If Jordan would have read my transition report, blah, 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 blah."
That was
and
awesome.
not only did he reference it once, he referenced it twice, perfectly, word for word. And every time he did it, Sutter had this look on his face like, what the heck just happened? He had no counter for it at all.
As if, like, if he says, if you read my report, he's like kind of implying if you knew how to read.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that. And he actually made that comment at Jazel too, like, let me spell it out for you. Jazel held his ground on everything, and actually he came out on top. Like, by the end of the night, I think Sutter was looking for the door. Like, I don't even think he wanted to be in that seat anymore. Oh man, he was. It was. He just turned everything around on him. We got a phone call here.
Oh, we got
Nice.
Hello, you're on City Talk Fall River, bud.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, how's it going?
Listen, after the debacle last night, you really have to take all three debates, and you look at all three debates, there's one common theme here. That all the incumbents are all the same boat. They basically want you to buy bags, pay a fee, and shut your mouth.
Accurate, completely accurate.
Back in our FRC days, you made a term called "pay it or else."
Yes.
You there?
Yeah, I'm still there. I can hear you, but it's like it's just weird.
You said "pay it or else." That was your term back in the day.
That's exactly what it is. Sutter last night didn't surprise me. The guy was pushed into being mayor. I don't think he ever wanted to be mayor. He got pushed by Rigo, Pelletier, and Mitchell and others to become mayor because they wanted a yes man on the sixth floor. And last night was proof of Jordan's actually doing the city a favor because he's exposing the city hall for exactly. It's a cesspool of corruption. Okay, it's exactly
I
what
like
it is.
that. Cesspool.
Notice everybody on the stage all talks about slash the privatization. Even Reggie, they go to his website, he talks about privatizing shit. Okay? Who's the one guy on stage who doesn't want to privatize and wants to keep the freaking freckle bag train going? Sam Sutter.
Mhm.
Same thing with the city council debate. It was the same thing. It was the same thing. Pat Casey's in La land. She's more concerned about a beach than she is about the problems in the city. Linda Hollywood, the whole thing up the other night when she talked about ranking. It's always the extortion. Two we say, we're going to let her cops off and all chaos is going to ensue. Dan Rigo is the same thing. It's the same thing. These people don't want to change. They don't want receivership. They don't want it makes me laugh that there are people in the city who want to vote these people in, who want to keep them in.
Yeah.
I agree with that, Barry. How do we sound, Barry? Do we sound okay?
It sounds fine, but it's just weird. Usually you call the old time that you call in, you feel like you get background sound.
Ah.
But yeah, I mean, last night I said like I said, it was Luca Chico. When Jordan mentioned Luca Chico showed up, I couldn't type it in. Luca Chico basically is the third base coach, and if he was flashing signals from the audience to tell Sam what Sam was doing.
Yeah.
Sam has no business being there.
Sam didn't turn his head from my point where I was sitting. Sam was the only one who kept his head straight ahead into the audience. The only time he turned his head was, which I found funny at this moment, was to scold Jazel. He turned his chair and everything. But I thought it was funny because there Jordan was directly on the side of him saying, when am I going to get my fine? When am I going to get my fine? And Sutter's right eye didn't even look at Jordan. His head was straight ahead. He looked forward. So getting hand signals.
He gets told what to do. This is why he's got Lou, Kathy. He has all these people surrounding him because he has two former mayors. He gets told what to do. I bet you, Alexander, who needs to focus better, Reggie, Jason, they all brought up that report. And they're calling Sutter out on some of the lies he tells people on the radio or other places and what's in the report. And he sits there, he contradicts himself.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
No. Finish your thought because I think you're going to go right where I was going. Go ahead.
He buries himself every time. And then he gets defensive with the fine thing. The closing was perfect. It was like a teacher who just wants to send kids to detention because he doesn't like them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he just proved to me he never should have been there in the first place. Mike Reynolds should have got the substitute teacher job. I call it substitute. I'm there. He should have got that opportunity. This guy has no business being there, but he's only there because certain people in City Hall put him there because they wanted some yes for the sixth floor. That's exactly what this is.
Now, I'm gonna go. I agree with every word you just said. And I'm gonna go one step further. In the debate, do you remember how he's still making mention of his 8 years as district attorney, but yet he's failing to even mention his 10-ish months of mayor and how much of a failed attempt of a mayoral run he's had so far. I mean, all he has is his 8 years as district attorney. He's got nothing as mayor. These last 9 months have been a failure. I mean, if you want to really go after it, you really want to give him the buy-in and give him a pass saying he inherited this mess. Well, yeah, he did. But if you've made zero progress to change anything, then this mess that you inherited is just as much yours because you've done nothing with it.
But spend and add positions.
I would counteract that argument saying, listen, being district attorney is far different than being the chief executive officer of this city. Okay, it's a far different dynamic. In a DA's office, it's not your money, it's the state's money. And it's easy to go, it's not so much to be a DA, but it's a lot easier than coming into this situation when you're in charge of an entire city and everybody who lives in it and the problem with this, it's not that, I don't care if you're a district attorney of Bristol County or Hennepin County. Okay, it's a different job. In the 10 months you've been here, you failed. Okay? And he didn't do the service last night. And you're right. He was actually reactive and proactive.
Right, exactly.
Because that's not what he's good at doing.
Yep.
How many times can we say to people with bring logic to the table and be called crazy? Do you understand what I'm saying? Like the whole big, the whole, there's just nothing but talking points coming out right now. No one has new ideas, they keep saying. We've been putting out ideas from day one. Alternatives to the purple bags, alternatives to now this $10 fee, alternatives, even Ed Costa has an alternative to what we can do as far as education department stuff goes. There's been a lot of people with good ideas coming out to the table, but you have this wall of people ready to shoot it down. You have your Wayne Rigo, you have this, that, and the other in the media ready to shoot it down. You have politicians just, we can't do that. I want you to think positively, but we can't do that. The only time I want you to think positively is when I'm taking money out of your pocket. Sam Sutter said about dozens of times, every time Jordan said the word steal,
it was great.
Yeah, because in reality, if you are taking something away from someone and they don't want it taken away, you can call that a steal. The people did not want this fee. People, if people could have voted against this, they would have voted against it. So Jordan's not way out of line for calling it what it is. As a matter of fact, he's well within his grounds to say how he feels about it, which he feels it's a steal. Do you know what I mean? And Nikki has put out multiple posts about how a lot of fees that have been implemented have the characteristic of a tax. And if a fee has a characteristic of a tax, then it's breaking the law. And if it's breaking the law, then you're well within your bounds to say it's a steal. Now, these people, instead of arguing the point, instead of looking at the facts and arguing the facts, all this time they've been trying to demonize us, demonize me, demonize Jordan, demonize this one. They're so crazy. They're so loud. They don't know what they're talking about. But they never want to talk about the facts. They never want to sit down and just explain why they think a fee is not a tax. Why they think, this is going to be good for the community. If they keep on, if I hear one more time from Bob Correa that the purple bags make him recycle, I'm going to lose my mind. You do not need any kind of colored bag to recycle. You have a humongous, you have a humongous barrel. You have a humongous barrel to recycle your things. You do not need anybody, the government, a bag, a company. You don't need anything to make you recycle. You recycle because you recycle. That's it. And by the way, recycling in Fall River, granted, it's it's a good thing in general to recycle, but it's not saving the city a ton of money. What's going to save the city a ton of money, Nikki? Yeah, tell us.
Privatization
And
reducing the damn trash that we generate in the first place.
Thank you, Nikki Medeiros. Go ahead, Barry. I had to go on a tangent again. I had a couple of tangents today. I'm sorry, buddy.
Listen, you have to understand something. WSAR and the Daily Worker, they're going to support City Hall. They're connected. So you have Bob Collier there, okay? He's getting 2 hours now. They get Blowhard Bob, who I think you might be a particular abuse butthead. They're going to push the candidates. They're pushing the incumbents. One of the things I found interesting, the first debate, you guys still there?
I'm here. We're all here.
It's when they asked Pat Casey about Page and Drug. All the incumbents said, yeah, it wasn't implemented right, but none of them offered alternative solutions because none of them want to alter it. None of them want that takes effort to offer an alternative solution, whether it be increased recycling or whatever. They don't want to do that because that, like I said, this is not about bags. They just want some money because they consistently mismanagement. They just make money constantly. They don't want to sit there and have to, like I said, the one thing and this was back to start. When you're the CEO of a city or a company, sometimes you have to do something you don't want to do and have to lay people off, like sanitation or privatize. They don't want to do that. Even first, set it in the report. You don't want to do it because of political reasons. Well, being the mayor of Florida has nothing to do with political. It's like being the head of a household. You got to make decisions that sometimes aren't going to be loved by the people you work for. Plain and simple. But you make them because, like I said, it's for the betterment of the entire city. And these people don't want to do that. Unfortunately, they got the paper on the radio station kissing their butt, and there's a lot of people in this city who basically kiss their butt. And that's where it pisses me off.
Hey, specifically about as far as politics go, as far as policy goes, I believe that you and I have had more conversations on the air about receivership, yes or no, than anybody on the air. And even last night we talked a little bit about it. I think Johnny David was also in support of receivership. I still am not in support of receivership. Doesn't mean I don't think we need to clean up a lot of what's going on. Obviously, I think if we had that audit, or just simply if people in general, the people in out there in in voter land, held the politicians accountable better, and we did better with transparency, we could probably clean up a lot more without going under state control. Johnny, in the conversation the other night, said it was a straw man for me to say that I don't want to be under state control. Problem being is that it happens, and if we don't fix the systemic problems in the city when it comes to the voter and voter involvement and things like that, we're going to 3 or 4 years, because it's not going to fix itself with just begging the state to come fix us. We have to actually stand up. Citizens actually have to stand up, become involved, say what they want, say what they don't want.
Educate themselves.
Educate themselves, like Nikki just got done saying. We really, and again, I'm still in the process of learning no one knows everything. Even guys like Joe Camara and Linda Pereira and people who've been involved in this process for over 25 years are still, that you learn something new every day when it comes to this. So all this conversation about, oh, you need experience, or you need this, you need that. I think you need a mentality. And just like I said on Monday, it comes down to, do you have the mentality that the citizens have an obligation to give the government money? Or does the government have an obligation to actually keep itself small, efficient, and let people run their own lives? That's what it comes down to. No matter how much experience you have, no matter what your financial background is, no matter what your racial background is, you have to have a mentality of big government or small government. That is the ultimate thing.
The government is supposed to be a service industry. It's for us. It hasn't been that way. It didn't even go the other way in the last 30 years. As far as receivership goes, John David actually brought up something about Chelsea. It was a good read. The reason I'm for receivership is the only way to fix this and keep it clean, I mean clean sweep, is and to avoid headaches. The headaches would be contracts like for the chief of police and the school superintendent. The reason I want to use the nuclear option is the only way to just level the entire ground and just start to rebuild the foundation, the physical foundation of the city. I'm not saying you can't do it if you don't go receivership. It just makes it that much harder and it takes longer to do it. The reason I push the receivership does this instantly. It eliminates. It also allows you to put a structure in place that can't be corrupted anymore. There are checks and balances all along the way, from department to department to person to person. That's the problem right now. And if you don't do it, you're going to do it. Doing it the hard way, it makes it a lot harder because you're always going to have a roadblock in the way from some department or some person in the department. By doing this now, there's going to be some pain. I found it amusing. So I tried to call in SAR. When he told Bob Correa that receivership would be chilly, ooh, I wanted to call up and tell Dr. Seuss to shut up. Okay? Because that's hilarious. You're going to talk about chilly. No, receivership is a tool to get a city, basically put a city back in fiscal order. And to hit this, and they don't even hit the same thing. They're all Hollywood up. They make it sound like, Godzilla's going to come and show up, Hollywood walk right by Pat Casey Memorial Beach and level the whole city. It's a joke. I'm so tired of the Halloween story bullshit. Okay?
Oh.
That's what really pisses me off about these things. It really does. And like I said, the reason I'm for receivership, TJ, is, like I said, it's the only way now to just blow it all up and start over. Because that's what this city needs. This city needs a proper fiscal foundation. It doesn't have it right now. It's been corroded and corrupted in the last 30 years.
We don't disagree. None of us disagree. Everyone who I've had conversation with about receivership, whether you're for it or against it, we all have the same goal. We want to clean some things up. We believe that there is, a complete mess that needs to be cleaned up. And, your method of cleaning up is receivership. I feel like there has to be more systemic changes on the Fall River level, that in order to avoid, the mistakes that we've been in, or at least if you don't want to call them mistakes, because some people get offended by that who have been involved, whatever. They're definitely inconsistencies. There's absolutely no way that they can deny that it's been inconsistent. Inconsistency that has caused a lot of these problems as well. So one way or the other, something has to be done. Doing things the way it is, keeping the ball rolling the way it is right now, it's absolutely not the way. It's probably the very, very last way that this can be fixed. So,
like I said, if we don't do it now,
you serious?
It's going to happen anyway. And the funny part is the spin they'll use for the reasoning behind it, because they'll blame it on something else. They won't take responsibility for it. It puts in the all right, guys.
I'm sorry, man. Somebody was laughing at CJ's scooter, and we kind of got distracted by that. Did you see CJ on the scooter?
No, I don't think that was visible on TV, but
unless
you were there.
That was something. Yeah, I guess it was his job to keep the audience down.
Though.
It was his job to keep the audience down, and he actually ended up making a big post on one of the Facebook pages out there about how bad the audience was. I think that if you are trying to put together a debate and have something legitimate, being disgruntled against the audience is probably one of the last things you want to do. I think just like with, if the government comes down on the people, if you're trying to build something legitimate, you might want to appreciate the fact that people were engaged and caring and clapping and, want to be a part of the process rather than scolding them like they're little children and push them in a different direction. So that's all I had to say about that.
But that would be the entire audience, because again, as I said, I was on stage and I made it a point to pay attention to the audience. That was actually a big part of why I was on stage. I paid attention to the audience, and it was both sides. Everybody the audience from, Sutter supporters, Jazel supporters, Jordan supporters against Robert Alexander. Every time Robert spoke, we heard things from the audience. It's not one-sided, that's for sure. So I didn't get to read his message on Grow Up because I'm not a member of that group. So I would hope that it wasn't really insulting to any one candidate's supporters, because it was all the candidate's supporters who were acting. And I really wouldn't even go crazy to say that that somebody went too bad. I think the worst thing I heard was when somebody had screamed.
Oh, Jordan's coming in.
When somebody had screamed to, moderator, do your job. And I believe that was Mike Herron, if I'm not mistaken. I actually will go ahead and say it was Mike Herron who said that. But that was taken care of after that.
Yep. I'm pretty sure we have Jordan calling in right now. We'll just give him a second. All right. So you're going to put him on? Yeah, I remember hearing a voice yelling, moderator, do your job. It didn't sound like Joe Camara. It came from Joe Camara's section, but it didn't sound exactly like Joe Camara. I don't think he said it. I'm not 100% sure if it was Mike Herron either, because it didn't sound like him to me, but
I can say it was 100%
they were both
sure
sitting in that area. So the assumption is that one of those two guys was the one that was yelling. So, hey, Jordan, how you doing, buddy? Hey. Is that all you got to say? Hey, you know what? Sam Sutter's probably wishing you only had one-word answers.
Hey, Jordan, how was not reading that transition report treating you?
What is this, the show that has taken all the relevant candidates off the last night?
I would like to be able to get everybody on. I mean, I don't have a problem. I had, Pam LeBeau on and whoever. I'd love to have a conversation with Scott. I haven't had a conversation with Scott yet. That would be nice. Rich Cabaceres has called into the show, so I mean, I'll talk to anybody really. I would love for Linda to call in, but that's never going to happen. So
yeah. Yeah. So you and Rich got an endorsement from House.
Technically, I feel as though Mark Dion actually kind of said something relatively neutral about me, which in regular world. Yeah. In regular world, that's actually like a compliment. So he's actually complimented me in person. He's like, I think you're gonna win. But then when he gets on his newspaper, he's all, there's no good candidates, that kind of thing. So it is what it is. Whatever. But how do you feel about last night, man?
Good. When I left there, because like I said, a couple times early on, I was at like a little bit of a loss. So both my camps thought. So I was, I felt a little weighted out by that. But when I look back and watch it, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was in the moment.
You started out really going. You warned everybody on Facebook, and you said everything that you were going to say. You went out there. You said, "I'm going at Sam. I'm going to go at Sam. Like, you might as well get used to it. It's going to happen, right?" And you did.
Yeah. I gave everybody fair warning.
Right, and you did, and you went at him, and then there was somewhere along the way, maybe, and again, I'm not trying to speak for you, but I just feel this is how it looked from the outside, right? It looked as though you said to yourself, "I made my case. I said what I wanted to say at Sam Sutter, and now I'm going to talk about the problems in Fall River and maybe some of the ways we can go about trying to fix them." And you still gave a couple of jabs at Sam along the way, right? But you,
Yeah,
I think,
let me just say one thing real quick, Gina, and I know you know this.
Yeah.
But, if anybody listening, there's the way I look at things. When you see all these negative things and nobody wants to talk about them, like everyone wants to like pretend. If you listen to Sam, they don't even exist, right? Like he has integrity, he's transparent, he addressed some all the issues and whatnot. So we all know that's not true. So I had to basically first, explain to people how that's not the case at all. You saw when he asked that very simple question about how come I never got fined. He was just really dodging it. Like, it was so obvious, and it was like the fifth or sixth time that I asked, and he still didn't answer. It was like, at what point does it become embarrassingly obvious that, he's hiding something, As an attorney, you should know the legal side of like making a nurse. You can read an ordinance, it's very, very simple, very plain text, and so yeah, I mean, in doing so that again, so I felt like I had to at least lay that groundwork of here's the problem, why this guy needs to go, and then give alternatives. So today, we all know last night, the way WSAR operates, that anything, pretty much anything I could have did. I said, like I said before, I could have just quoted the Bible all day, and today I would have been, called a devil worshiper. So I knew I was going to be, oh, he's so negative, so that's all they say about me. Oh, he's so negative. So I also think, and you posted this on Facebook earlier this morning, how a lot of people, honestly, only one or two people so far, it was so early, saying, oh yeah, I didn't think he's a serious candidate, he's just going to be a startup. I think if you go back and listen to what I was actually saying, and I said this to you yesterday, before the debate, that I was going to be the only one actually giving long-term solutions. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So no other candidate there was talking about here restructuring, reorganizing government. Nobody says what that is. You know what I mean? Because they don't want to turn off the union vote. They want these people to think, oh yeah, this guy's going to get in here. He would represent how can be fiscally responsible, which is impossible, by the way, because they're both contradictory. So I was just trying to get out the point that, like I said, the issues that I was saying, attacking the spending, is the only viable solution. I was the only one who talked about it. And I had this conversation yesterday with one of the authors of the transitional report. Don't mind me, I'm like power walking up hills.
You talked to Alan Silva.
Yes.
Yep.
And basically, it's all in the report. It was not a mysterious thing, but everything in the report said. That's why I just quoted a couple times too. How the government's completely, unrealistically not affordable, and we have to address that. And I didn't hear that from one other person last night. It's not a difficult thing. Those are the hard solutions and the only solution. So nobody wants to do it. They want to come in, in my opinion, with band-aids and whatnot, and trickery, and be like, oh yeah, we're just going to solve the stuff with $830 million unfunded liability. We're just going to solve the stuff, and that's not going to happen.
If you remember on Monday's debate, I mentioned how the CBA is set up to where you can't touch their salaries, so it can only fall on one group of people. It's a setup from the jump, And
that's why, like I said on WFCI, that's and last night, you have to something with the CBA rules have to change in Massachusetts. You have to at least allow some flexibility when you're in a season of a shortfall. You have to at least allow some flexibility for that. Well, here's a little tip that I learned, right? Yesterday, like I said in that conversation, so I'm learning the difference between the collective bargaining laws in Massachusetts as opposed to Florida. So in Florida, they go in, they bargain, and then if it doesn't work out, you can go to a mediator, right? And then if that doesn't work out, it ultimately gets put in front of the city commission, which is equivalent to the city council. And the city council just dictates the terms on the merits, quote unquote. So could you imagine that one difference? If that one difference happened in Massachusetts and Florida, all this would go away. So we have to be responsible at that point.
Hey, Jordan, honestly, what you just got done saying, you answered your own question about what can the change in the charter do?
Well, no, I don't. Here's the thing. Well, if I just want to get hit by this next one.
No. Well, there's some people in the city that might want that.
You have to do with driving first. Look at this guy. I'm driving by. I see Josh Silva doing a roof repair. Dude, my wife, I got a whole giant Stop and Shop bag full of lunch today. I guess my wife probably did a good job yesterday. For one of your orders, I got Josh real quick. He's wearing his camo shorts and everything. Hold on.
Hey, tell him hello.
Josh is wearing camo shorts.
What's this? Live on the air?
Josh, what's up, buddy? How you doing? All right, everybody. This is City Talk.
We're still celebrating. I haven't even gone to sleep yet.
Well, there's no celebration until we actually go somewhere with all this. But you guys Josh, you did a really good job on Monday. Jordan, you definitely held your ground yesterday. You made your case. Jazel, he hit nothing but home runs last night. There's definitely some things out there that the change candidates can look to and hold on to. Actually, I'm going to give a little credit to some of the other guys on Tuesday's debate. Scott Donnelly did a really good job. I feel as though, even though, we've had all our differences, Font and, Pamela Bowe and a couple other people, they did their part as the change candidates. They actually made a couple of cases. So everyone should really feel good about that. But it doesn't stop here. I hope everyone knows that. It doesn't stop here.
Stop. We're just getting started, TJ. What are you talking about?
Nice.
This is all done. The council's gonna have a big change.
Yep.
Everything's changing. My property value went up 14% overnight, just after that debate. I checked on MLS.com.
Good job. Good job on Zillow and all those websites. The property value is going through the roof just by you talking. That's awesome.
Yeah, just by me filling in, what happened last night when a total lie was exposed on stage.
Hey, this phone call that I'm having right now is doing nothing for you guys as far as mistaking one for the other. Like, you just kind of, between Jordan and Josh, like, you guys just ruined that completely now, just now. They all think you're the same person now. Everyone thinks you're the same person now. Nice. Oh, don't be another. Hey, don't be another city council candidate trying to run for mayor.
Are we going to ask to write you in on the left side for mayor now? Is that what it is? We're going to
just like RBT.
Jordan and I will get into the same suit time. And I'm so mad. The same suit.
Hey, you gotta wear and wear flip flops with that though. You gotta wear flip flops with that suit though. You know what I mean?
That's right. I had sort of crumbling from the audience of my gang sign that was thrown up.
Hey, I just want to say something real quick though, gang. You gotta record that. Hey, seriously, in all reality though, he made a beeline right for the door as soon as the debate was over. He didn't want to stick around. He didn't want to talk to anybody.
Yeah. I got him before he walked out.
I know that, but man, that is not a good thing to see.
All right.
Bye, Josh.
Hey, well, I do want to admit, like, and Josh, mistaken Josh and Jordan. I know how it is to be mistaken for someone else, Ed, So I feel the pain, but Jordan, I have to. I know I already given you tons of credit already for the debate last night, but once again, I mean, we all knew you were going to attack, and we all knew that you were going to be relentless, and you were, but. When I watched the debate at home again a second time, the points that you made, the ideas that you had, they were valid and they were really good. And I'm hoping that if for some reason that you don't make it past this point, the 22nd, that people take what you say and they run with it, because it is definitely a decent spot to go.
I mean, I'm gonna,
Yeah. Yesterday about the transition part, right? So I was talking with the person, and he says, "Oh yeah, it's the union stuff, and these are all the things you're up against." Also, said anybody gets elected is walking into like a bus, so I knew that. But I said, "Yeah." So he was saying, "Oh, how difficult the situation is," and I said, "Yeah, okay, that I understand the gravity of how hard it will be to make these changes." But I said it to Josh yesterday. I look at what's going on. I see three different types of candidates are running, right? You're going to have A. How you doing? Good morning. You're going to have A candidates who are going to stop and fight all the increases as hard as you can, right? Which is, I put myself in, I already know that. That's all I've been talking about, right? I look at any question and I'll stand up and fight anybody at this point.
Yeah.
Then you have two other categories, right? You have the person who will get in there and do I don't know what sort of origin they'll fall into or any of that category. You're going to have Dave, the person who gets in and doesn't even try to do this, right? They try to placate to unions, they try to band-aid the situation, we need more revenue and see going on. Then you have the third category, which is the worst, who are people going to get in and you see all of them on the council, and they're actually going to act in the union's best interest. They're bought and sold by that. So they're going to be actually advocates for increased spending and that. What's going on, buddy? So I don't know, again. So when I was being told all these things that I'm up against trying to fight the unions yesterday, right? And he basically, the instruction was, well, Sutton knows all this stuff, and he's chosen not to go that route at all in one step. So I said, yeah, well, what do you think? The reason why I like to put him in either the second or third category is, I said, well, do you think he hasn't said one single word about trying to bring unions into line to something more realistic that we can afford? I said, what do you think after he gets elected? He's going to be like a crusader? I said that to Sarah Rebella, okay? In the recall election. She goes, oh yeah, he promised me, he's going after the unions. I said, what in this guy's history would ever tell you that? You know, he's like basically an MSNBC liberal spending green guy. Like, what do you think he's gonna go out? We're gonna live by the edge. Would never think that would happen. So again, I don't know what side we're gonna be. He's gonna be an advocate for them or just not doing anything. Either one is the wrong answer, you know. And I don't know which category Gabriel falls in at this point. I know Jimmy is coming out to send him like I am. So again, that's why I think everyone just has no solution. I do think I'm the only person with a solution.
You are, you know, when you are that one guy that's willing, when you say quote go after the union, what specifically do you mean? Do you mean like completely Scott Walker go after him with a hatchet, him down, or
in the system as a Tom worker, but I would think it'd be in your best interest to get behind what I'm saying.
Hey,
because the system in the class point on now.
Jordan, you quoted. Hey, Jordan, you quoted an article in the paper about the pension program. Right now, I actually posted an article about maybe 2-3 months ago how Massachusetts ranked near the last in pension, you know, in the quality of pensions. Now, you also mentioned something that again, it's funny because people think that we're all like, we have like the same thing, but we've come to these conclusions separately on our own, right? I came to the conclusion. Yeah.
This weekend, I'm gonna make basically a witness test, right? I'm gonna talk for maybe say 20 questions, and it's gonna be what you're seeing on ABC all the way down.
Right.
And then I'm gonna just get it to every candidate, and I'm gonna expect every candidate to answer those questions.
Yeah.
With a 3-word phrase, you know, like
right.
one sentence. But,
yeah, I got enough homework from Boston University, dude.
So everyone can know what everyone thinks on every position.
I got enough homework from Boston University, but thanks. Thanks, Jordan. Thanks. But seriously, I wanted to finish that real quick because I know that I came to the conclusion about 3 months ago or so that if we were able to do a feasible, realistic transition into a 401k level, and again, we've had conversations about it, but I like when I can draw my own conclusion and you can draw your own conclusion. And we're not all in cahoots together. You know what I mean? So I'm thinking at least in a 401. No, of course not. Right. But when a 401k system comes in, again, it's not the solution all end and be all whatever. But at least it addresses pension liability. Right. It addresses pension liability, which is what we need. We need money to be there if you're gonna have a retirement, right? You can't just pull from something that, you know, make it exist out of nowhere, which is what we've been doing the whole entire time.
It's the feasibility of it, like you said, it has to work, right? Or what are we even talking about? Politicians don't care. They don't care if they see something crumbling. They'll lie until and then just get out of Dodge. Like I was thinking, I want to say last night, if this all does fall apart, like stuff will be fine. You know what I mean? Stuff will be fine. Will all these pensioners be okay? Will the currency market, all these public? I don't think they will be. You know what I mean? And that's why. When you're not in that same situation as people, he has no basis of knowledge to come from, you know, being in these people's position.
Right.
Well, I'm sorry, there's another point out to me too. So I said there's two things. It's a feasibility thing. The second thing is I just think it's almost like a level of fairness, right? Everyone's talking about fairness. Well, everybody I know my working environment, right? Everybody who doesn't work for the government, mostly for the most part, has a 401k. You know what I mean? That's just the reality of the world.
Yeah.
So, you know, I just don't see how one of the poorest cities in Massachusetts is going to give out these benefits back. By the way, all the poor people who work at such dead-end jobs like Dunkin' Donuts don't receive. Yeah, they're going to fund all these other that's not fair to me. You know what I mean?
It's exactly right. Now, I was able to get into a 401k program in my company, the company I work for.
Yep.
However, just so I wasn't overly dependent on my job for my retirement, I made a phone call to my friend at Edward Jones, and I put together my own IRA for my own self.
Well, what you just said is everything I believe in the township. So everybody is overly dependent on the government for this stuff, you know, for these services. Like Linda Meady was telling me today, like, oh, well, what's your plan? What do you do? And I said, listen, we just need to get away from this idea that lead people to do all this stuff for us. And when you don't, you give them that authority over you, if you depend on them, then what's going to happen? And that's just this entire city. You know, that's when the corruption gets involved. And that's why they don't want to let go of it. That's why they want a transfer station and everything. They don't want to let go of that authority and power over you. And ultimately, the ability to steal more money from you.
That transfer station idea that you mentioned, that was mentioned by Rich Cabaceres at the Monday.
Sure was.
Yeah, at the Monday debate. Now, Nikki has her position on transfer stations, and Nikki, if you want to talk about it, you can.
Oh, my thoughts on transfer stations is that's an absolute ludicrous idea, and our officials wanting to build one is another way for them to put more money into their own pockets rather than into the city.
Now, for me, when a transfer station idea first was brought up and I started talking about it, I was in support of it under the same impression that Richard Cabaceres is under right now, actually, that we were going to be able to regain tipping fees and things like that from surrounding communities. But you know, after more discussion, research, and whatever else that we did, came to the conclusion that that's almost impossible because everyone else prepared for our landfill closing except Fall River, right?
True story.
So now everybody's doing their own thing. They don't need us. They don't need our services, and we can't gain tipping fees off of that anymore. It's not an option anymore. It might have been an option when we all knew it was closing down. We could have maybe got ready for a transfer and said, hey, we're doing this now. You can still keep sending your trash here, blah, blah, blah. But that didn't happen.
It did happen on Airport Road. The one that's already there. Yeah.
Between government and the private sector. So there's no incentive. If they
Or did they?
At the BFI Republican, they probably they probably solidified in with the government, and that's where you get these incestuous colonial relationships, which I think is what would happen if we just privatized a waiver and just kept it again in a government contract, and then you have people giving donations, and you have all this CD stuff and passing regulations to curb third party competition like we saw already. So I think it's just the difference between the private sector and the government. So that BSI, all that being said, if they still won't do the right thing, they could potentially go bankrupt. You know, they should absolutely. We don't know that they may be aiming at the right people. They'll just raise and whatnot. But the city, right? Like you see, the city just completely drops the ball on everything. They just take more money. And there's nothing you can say about it. So that's just, you know, goes with the differences on why I would not want to see someone Wayne Rigo says, oh, I want a bottle of water. I don't want the government opening up lemonade stands. I don't want them doing anything. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think, like, we don't have, and this is America, you're not supposed to have the government opening up businesses, which is what the trash system is. You know, so I want to get away from that 100%. I'm right outside work through it and patient not to focus on the other.
Hey, hey, is anyone across the street? Is anyone across the street from your job over there? Anybody?
I haven't seen any work being done. I think that was a lie. I know the companies are both laying your line about
Jordan, when you hang up, I'm actually going to mention what you mentioned about the differences now with Flanagan running his own private business and not having that government money anymore. So you take care of yourself. You did a good job last night, and you know
everybody can take care of it tonight. It's at Morton, so I believe such a thought. They have a new one, so I think they're gonna let. And another thing too, I was like, oh my god, I was such a jerk to Sutton spine for the mother here last night. If you watch the replay, Sutton was the first person to interrupt anybody.
Yeah, I know.
While I was talking.
You know, it's never ever going to be a fair game for you, man. You just gotta have to keep it going.
No, it never is. It never is.
Yeah, but you wouldn't want it any other way, John, right?
Oh, of course. Like I said, I slide on it. Everybody knows that by now too. Like, I think Jordan gets off on it. I kind of do. So.
All right.
At this point.
I know what I'm going for. Unfortunately, it's not that I think he knows what he's going to. So I look up, like I told Derek, I'm going to be happy all day knowing that I get to do that at 6 o'clock tonight.
All right, kid. Have yourself a good one, and good luck tonight.
Jordan, love you. Thanks for being so accessible.
Great job last night, Nikki.
Thanks, honey.
All right, later, man.
You can go right into accessibility right there if you want.
See, you like that, huh?
Oh, yeah.
I did that transition.
Nice transition.
For anyone else who would like to call, the number is 774-955-0533.
I'm so happy that City Talk Fall River is like really back on the air now. I feel like getting 3 phone calls in one show is like where we used to be back in the day. Well, we had 2 calls, right? But 3 people talked,
That's
right?
right.
Because we had Josh and Jordan on the same line.
How about that? Working man didn't even have to call in.
But accessibility. The accessibility question.
The accessibility question was a very good one, because when Sutter, I specifically watched his face when
Preface what the question. What the question was.
Why don't you preface what the question was? Yeah.
So just so everyone knows, last night at the mayoral debate last night, one of the main questions that caught my attention was, are you, what did I do? Did I do tonight again? I wish we could play, commercialized songs, because I would play Tonight by Phil Collins. But anyway, no, well, yeah, both of them. Okay. But anyway, so point being is that the question was accessibility, as far as, what would you do, or how have you, done as far as being accessible to the people? How do you think everyone answered that question, Nikki?
I know how everybody answered that question. I was there, man.
Well,
okay, my opinion on how everybody answered the question. It's been a long night. For me, I go right to Sutter. Everybody else is accessible other than Sutter. I've talked to Renzi, I've talked to Alexander, I've talked to Jordan, I've talked to Jaisal. The only one I haven't really talked to was Sutter. Remember, I keep saying I think Lou Pacheco is the mayor. So when he talked about accessibility, that was just a joke to me. That whole thing was just a joke. Yeah, I can't keep going. There's nothing else for me to say about it.
I mean, look at what just happened. Jordan's walking down the street. Someone says hi. He says hi right back.
Right.
At least he's on the street to be said hello to. He's out there. People see him. He's visible. Where do you see Sutter other than him driving to City Hall, going up to the 6th floor, staying there, doing nothing, not being visible during city council? The only person we see is Lou Pacheco, and it was kind of great to see him walking in pretty late. Sutter also walked in pretty late. We have no idea why, but we can all make jokes about why later on. But he may be late, but he was definitely the first one ready to walk out of that place, being dejected after that whole debate.
What I noticed the most, and what I tried to look for, especially for the accessibility question, was the crowd reaction. Okay, the crowd reaction was a humongous moan and groan, and it wasn't just from, quote, the recall group. There was a lot of people there that knew for a fact that Sam Sutter was being very dishonest when he said he's been to all the neighborhood association meetings. There was a lot of noise. A lot of people said during this whole entire debate over the $10 fee that he was going to go all around the city and do neighborhood association meetings. He missed, from what I heard, from what I remember, he missed about 3 of them. I went to one of them where he was supposed to be there and didn't go.
Carlos wasn't one of the Flint ones?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I believe he missed Collis's at least twice. He showed up. He didn't show up to a few others, and then when he finally decided, hey, I'm going to make it, now he can say, I've made it to every neighborhood meeting. But what he won't say is the fact that he missed quite a handful of them in beforehand, just so he could save some face.
His beeline out the door, in my opinion, showed that he's only really going to be fully accessible to the people who are going to vote for him, that are already on his team. He hasn't been accessible to the people that are against him. He hasn't been accessible to have conversations with, to the people that are for other candidates.
I was going to say that you think he'd be accessible if I had a donation?
Oh, he would be a very successful. Oh my goodness, he would be very accessible if you had money in your pocket, guaranteed.
Yeah, that was laughable. That was him. For him to say that he's any kind of accessible was a little bit on the crazy side. When everybody's been, we don't see him at city council meetings. We don't see him anywhere really, unless he's asking for something serious himself. And let's be real, even then, he's there at the very beginning and he leaves.
I would venture to say there are a lot of people out there that have regretted voted for Sam, who were Flanagan people in 2013 that voted for Sutter in 2014, that were feeling like they made a mistake and should have voted for Flanagan again. And the reason being is because of the lack of accessibility. Any Flanagan supporter from 2013 can have a discussion with me right now, and I will blow them away as to why Flanagan was not a good mayor for the city. However, it is 100% true that Flanagan has at least given the appearance of accessibility a lot more than Sam Sutter ever has. That much is 100% true. Neither one of them are going to be good mayors or have been good mayors for the Fall River, but 100% that Flanagan at least gave the city a lot of impression that he was more accessible. Sam Sutter has if we were in school right now, he would get an absolute F on accessibility. No doubt about it.
No show.
No call, no show.
F minus maybe.
F6 is now what they used to call it in high school, an F6
Yes.
for absenteeism. Another thing I happened to notice during last night's debate was when Jazel was talking about him being involved. And I actually think it might have been part of the accessibility question. And I have to laugh because Alexander said he was acceptable.
Yes.
He did say he was acceptable. He didn't realize it was accessible, so he said acceptable. I'm really acceptable. Okay. But anyway,
Moving on.
moving on. So Jazel, I forgot where I was at for a second. So Jazel spoke about being an instructor during one of Sutter's tennis camps. The look on Sutter's face was like pure shock, but he didn't mention anything about it. So I think in his head, he was like, was he an instructor? Wasn't he an instructor? Was he an instructor? Like, I don't think he could answer that question himself, because if he could have, he probably would have thrown it at Jazel. So I thought that was interesting. I just wanted to bring that up. Anybody else notice his face when that question was being asked?
I noticed a lot of I know a lot of looks on his face when a lot of things were said to him or about him, or he was trying to recover. Especially with the accessibility part, it's very rare you see him outside of City Hall, of a City Hall environment. And even if you see him inside of a City Hall environment, that's just as rare too. I mean, I've seen the guy outside in a convenience store picking up some random things here and there. And I mean, does he seem approachable? Yeah, he doesn't seem that bad. Would I want to approach him? Probably not, because if you start listening to him talk, he seems very snide in his remarks. And that's an instant turnoff to being approachable. So that whole question, although it was supposed to be, all the questions were supposed to be neutral, it was kind of a jab at him, and it was kind of a free question for everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I can agree with that.
One of the more interesting conversations that were had, there was a lot of back and forth between Jazel and Sutter about pay-as-you-throw. I remember when pay-as-you-throw first got implemented, and Jazel was in full support of the program itself in theory, about the recycling more, blah, 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 this, that, and the other. However, he was very strong and maintained that we should think twice about fining people. He was very strong in thinking twice and maintaining about the implementation of it. So I think that Sutter tried to paint this picture that Jazel was for it before he was against it, the same way that John Kerry got hit with the flip-flop back in 2008 or whatever it was that he was running for president. He tried to stick him with that, but once Jazel switched it all around on the details of it, along the way, Sam Sutter said something to the tune of, I wasn't really paying much attention to it at the time when the budget was being passed.
Mm-hmm.
However, he tried to get very specific on Jazel. So Jazel turned it right around and said, listen, how many times can he just keep on being dishonest with the people? Either you paid attention to the budget or you didn't. You know what I mean? Either you paid attention to the voting process or you didn't. Mm-hmm. Because you can't just go in there and act like you paid attention to the voting process when you want to discredit me. And then when I ask you for specifics, you turn around and say, oh, I didn't pay much attention to it. It was completely disingenuous. It looked completely disingenuous on Sutter's part. And Jazel did a very good job of articulating those inconsistencies.
That's an interesting point, because what I did when Sutter said that, when actually Jazel called him out on it, it frustrated me because, here we have this man who was elected during a recall election to become mayor, and he didn't even know anything about the budget or the budget process prior to getting elected. So last night he stood on stage and made comments about the budget that simply as a resident of Fall River, he should have been paying attention to.
Mhm.
So when you as a resident don't know that information, how are you going to get on stage and claim that you know that information as mayor?
And what's even, I mean, people in that kind of position in government should have a good grasp, or if you're going to be going into that direction in government, you should have a really good grasp of what's going on here. I mean, you and I and TJ as well, we destroyed and completely went through last year's budget nearly ad nauseum, to the point where we were like, you know what, this is ridiculous. I mean, they were all showing reductions in departments across the board,
Right.
but what they did not show you was that the people that were still in those departments were making more money this year. It was just people were being shifted around. So not to fool anyone, which is exactly what he did. I mean, he basically did the whole 3-card Monty thing. He just kept flipping around the cards until no one could find the queen.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is that people who actually looked at the budget and were able to go from 2014 to 2015, the 2016 budget is going to be a real interesting thing, because whoever comes up with this one is going to be,
It's going to be a doozy.
it's definitely going to be one for the record books. But if you're not looking at salaries for individual people, and you're saying that people are and people are still making money, but the amount that the department is using is going down, you're not helping here, because something else is going to go up.
Mm-hmm.
The whole shifting of, let's go back to the whole Ken Pacheco, shifting him from sanitation, streets and highways.
Mm-hmm.
That what you're doing is you're taking away from the sanitation enterprise fund. You're taking away big salaries. You're shifting them over to somewhere else, where the taxpayers are now burdened with it, instead of the enterprise fund having to deal with it in
And
house.
that's $100,000.
Over.
Yes, but we're talking about, we're not talking about $20 here and there. We're talking about $100,000. Hate to sound like what's his face
Dr.
there,
Evil.
Dr. Evil.
Now, do you realize that if you $100,000, with the average household making, what was it, about 27? I forgot what the number was. The average household,
I think it's 27, 28.
About 27. Do you realize that's 4 times? 4 households of the average households do not match up Ken Pacheco's one-person salary. That is mind-blowing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't have a problem with the people making 50, 60 grand, because that's a very good living, especially in this city. You can do very well with that. But when you're almost doubled those people, especially when you have, good point, especially when you have people working part-time, such as corporate counsel Macy, who's making what, 90-some thousand?
And can only work 18 hours a week.
And then you wonder why the city is in a financial downfall. You don't even have to worry about Mr. Goslin either. I mean, look at just look at Macy, man. It blows my freaking mind.
Yeah, there's a lot of that in politics. Go ahead, try. I feel like you need a microphone, because this is very difficult.
I'm gonna officially give up my microphone for the rest of the show until I need it back.
I'm writing down what the candidates, what they talked about in the meeting. I'm writing them down on a piece of paper here while they're talking, because you don't understand when you do a show with someone like Derek Morgado and someone like Nikki Medeiros. They throw out so much information, and it's actually very, sitting in the middle of it, it's very stimulating. And honestly, it is. It's like, no, I don't mean it in a bad way. I mean it in a good way. Like, you guys are laughing at me behind me, but it's true. It's true. It's like there was so much information out there. For example, Jordan brought up a relationship between Macy, who is the corporation counsel right now, part-time corporation counsel. You have to call him that, because he can only work 18 and a half hours a week, which was as illustrated in the Herald News. I guess there was a sale, I believe, a house sale between the two, and they're friends and they hang out. And I think that it's important to just illustrate that a little bit, that you know, when we say there's a lot of cahoots going on, that these guys are all buddies and things like that, you know, when you see things like that and then you see decisions being made, who's going to get this job, who's going to hire who, you start to see that, you know, there's a lot more going on behind the scenes. So, but Sam Sutter. There was just a lot of inconsistencies, a lot of promises were being made, a lot of things were being sold to the people that the crowd was just not buying. There was a handful of people that would just clap. If he said 2 + 2 is 5, they were going to clap. There was absolutely nothing he could say that was going to stop these people from not cheering him on. He sat there, he had like maybe 9 to 15 people ready to clap no matter what he said. There was times when he said things and they couldn't even clap because they couldn't even justify it, such as his accessibility answer. When he made that accessibility answer, nobody could clap for him because he completely was dishonest when he said all of that. However, the Amazon thing, people were told the ground was going to break in August. Hasn't happened yet. Sam Sutter said very soon or something.
Well, last night I didn't get that.
Yeah.
That feeling from him. I got the feeling that they weren't coming anytime soon. That's the feeling that I got from.
He said there was more to come, right?
Yeah.
You have Sutter. I'm sorry, I'm taking the microphone back now. You have Sutter saying very soon. You have Fiola, who is the head of FROED, saying by the end of the decade. So so you went from very soon to having someone else saying by the end of the decade. Wow, what kind of time frame are these people looking at? I mean, are you looking at finally having a contract signed? Are you looking at finally breaking ground? I mean, what is the deal here? I mean, why is there such miscommunication?
There was also a lot of conversation between Jordan, Jazel, and Sutter about Sam Sutter creating positions. Now, Sam Sutter went out there and said, I tried to create 2 positions. I ended up with 1. And he tried to spin it into like, I did you a favor by making it into 1. When in reality, it was voted up against and he still wanted his 2 positions. And he claimed he was disappointed with the public. I'm surprised nobody mentioned that, but he claimed on WSAR how disappointed in the public he was that they weren't allowing him to get what he wanted. And he kept on talking about how New Bedford has this and, you know, this city has that and blah, blah, blah. But in reality, the people have been, you know, were against this and he should have just accepted that. Instead, he's scolding and going back and forth with them. It just didn't make any sense at the time when he was on WSAR. As a matter of fact, his interview with Barry, he was snapping on Barry on that first interview. It was actually very uncomfortable listening to this. At that time, and you know, I don't know if WSAR still had it on the website, but they usually keep track of all their interviews with Barry. So you know, I can try to go back and find it because it was right around. It was his first interview after he got elected, right around the time that he wanted to put 3 positions in. So then Jazel calls him out on it. He said, "I'm sorry, but you didn't ask for 2 positions. You asked for 3," and that really kind of opened the doors as far as a theme going on back and forth about inconsistencies in what Sam Sutter said. And again, it was capped off with his complete dishonest approach on accessibility. If anyone should have apologized, it wasn't Richard Renzi. It should have been Sam Sutter. I think he would have gained more respect if he would have said, you know what, I haven't shown the accessibility that I said I was going to show, that I promised. But if he tried to sell off that the accessibility that he has shown is acceptable, then there's your level of dishonesty right there. There's your full level of dishonesty right there.
I mean, it stems back from from the day that he took office, where he said he gave his quick little speech, inauguration speech. He made it a point saying, I gotta go upstairs. We got some work to do. We're gonna hit the ground running. And from that point on, for that next 3-month period, what did you hear out of him? Nothing. How much did you see him? Never. And that was because he knew, and this is just my opinion, I believe he knew that what he was about to do with that transition report was going to be something that the people were going to just start rioting over. So there was no way he could make himself that public, that approachable. There's no way he was going to put himself out there because he was going to get the whole pitchfork. He was going to get like tons of pitchforks and fire thrown at him because he just could. I mean, there was no way he was going to walk away from that storm.
No, go ahead.
All right.
Go ahead. You're good.
All right, guys. I tried to give Nikki a chance to talk because I kind of been going off on a tangent here a little bit. But there was another interaction between Jazel and Sutter that was interesting. Jazel and Sutter were arguing about whether or not Sam Sutter, which is kind of a funny argument, right? No, I didn't try to create three positions. I tried to create two. like Sam, you should have. The whole conversation was about how out of touch you are for trying to create new positions in the first place. Okay, he was already in a losing argument to begin with, right? But then Sam Sutter said, when you came up to my office and talked about it behind and wanted to talk about it behind closed doors, Jazel responded with, "That's the problem. I didn't want to talk about it behind closed doors like you did. I want to talk about it in front of everybody because everybody deserves to hear this."
Yeah, that was pretty awesome.
Yeah, that was
One of the best parts of the entire night. True transparency. I want a camera in all. I want Government Center to be a reality show, okay? I want a camera in every room personally myself if we could afford it, right? Because we need to see what's going on behind those closed doors because that's why everyone keeps on getting ripped off. You know what I mean?
No, go ahead.
All right.
I'm good.
So he ends up having this conversation about, oh no, I didn't want to create three, I wanted to create two. And I'm thinking to myself, we're literally sitting there watching him argue about him trying to create positions when the whole conversation was again about how out of touch he was, that we are trying to get away from that kind of thing. Hiring your buddies, expanding government, expanding the salary thing. No one even brought up, I'm surprised, that he fired the corporation counsel at the time without even really vetting out if it was going to cost the taxpayers more money because of the contract situation. Again, bringing us back to the conversation of contracts. The whole collective bargaining process. Should we be revisiting that? And I wish that we had more of that productive discussion because we're not. I know I can't speak for anybody else, any other candidate. I personally understand that these people have jobs in the government. They have families to support. I get it. So I don't want to see people losing their jobs completely. But we need some flexibility. If $6.5 million shortfall is in the budget and you can't even touch a salary at all on the city side, that is just completely unfair to everybody. I'm sorry. Am I doing something wrong here?
Nope.
Nope. No. The thought of having cameras and having that being a 24/7 reality series, that was funny.
I was kind of joking.
Yeah, we all know, but I don't care if I.
Well, if you watch reality shows, anytime like some crazy stuff happens, they try to do it when there's not a camera around. So you see the lengths that they go to hide from a camera. So we were just picturing that happening in City Hall. Great.
Yeah, but I mean
with those new windows, there's nowhere to hide.
Oh man.
They're very clean and clear. Yeah. Man. And we digress.
Speaking of the windows and the glass doors and the marble floors and all that stuff that we've been talking about about last year during the recall, Jordan made a point, and I wanted to kind of get it out there. Flanagan did an in-depth interview with Barry Richard about 2 weeks ago on WSAR. And he started talking about how they're laying out the carpet and a lot more modest approaches now that the money is out of his own pocket. You look at the mayor's office when he had all that bonding money that he could utilize in his office. He had glass doors, marble floors. I remember Ray Mitchell mentioning that corporation counsel at the time, Souza, got her office painted about 5 or 6 different times. She got a new desk too. Yeah, new desk.
And
so
$9,000 doors.
So there was a lot of lavish spending going on with this government money. But now that Flanagan's in his own position, in the position of running his own business out of his own funding, now you're seeing the more modest spending, and that kind of just goes to show you where people end up, with the private and the public, how entitled the government can be sometimes with your tax money, and it's irresponsible how they can be with your tax money. So which really transitions into something that Jazel was talking about last night, talking about I will responsibly spend your tax dollars. To me, I thought that Jazel owned the room. I thought he stood out among all the candidates, far head and shoulders above everybody. However, there were a few comments in there, obviously, that we're not going to agree on every single thing. Okay, obviously I have my position as pay-as-you-throw, but also spending your tax dollars. I would love to be able to get away from the government dictating your tax dollars as much as possible. I'd love for you to be in charge of your money as much as possible. Personally, my personal political philosophy. So you have to remember those kind of comments now, today, before people move up into becoming positions of public officials. For him to say that, that's a buzzword for me. That's that didn't put up a flag, because I think that Jazel has really good intentions. However, when you hear someone say, I want to spend your tax dollars properly, you always have to be, aware of that kind of thought process and sentence. That's all I can say about that. Jazel had good ideas, talked about some of the things that I've actually talked about myself, restructuring how we have a partnership with the sanitation department, doing a public-private partnership. That's one option. Obviously, I personally am all about, if you own property, you're responsible for it, you pay for it, get the government completely out of the way, and just pay for whatever services you need and want for your property, and be responsible for your property. That's the way I look at things. But a lot of people out there are willing to do some type of bulk, sanitation deal with a company like ABC, Cleanway, whoever, and that's perfectly fine. It's got to be responsible, and I think the people have to express that they're behind it. I don't want one group of people fighting another group of people because they don't want something. But the way that Jazel presented it, the numbers show that it would give us some savings. It'd be consistent. It would be a better service, in my opinion. So those ideas that he brought to the table, it kind of goes against this mantra that's been going around, that these new guys have no new ideas. This entire group of, not a huge group of people, but you see these one or two guys come in, not just on Facebook, but they'll call WSAR, they'll do something here and there, and they'll say, oh, these new guys don't have any new ideas, they think everything's for free. There's not a single, not me or anyone else on this show or anywhere else has said that we want things for free. We want to be able to pay for one service. Right now, tax money goes to sanitation. Right now, you bought the barrels, you bought the trucks, you're buying the bags, you're paying the fee. People want to stop paying for the same thing over and over again. That's what it's really about. Not about not wanting to pay for anything. I don't understand when Linda Pereira tries to push this out. Well, we got to pay for things. No one is saying we don't want to pay for anything. We just want something consistent, and we want something that's going to be good for the city. And right now, this has been bad for the city, very bad for the city.
And we don't want to pay for something that has nothing to do with residential trash. Why should residents and taxpayers be paying for the trash from the school department? Why should residents and they're already, and when I say that, people get confused because they don't realize that the Sanitation Enterprise Fund is a separate entity. So what happens is when we'll just use the school department, for example. When the school department has their trash collection, and look how many schools are in the city, and this is administration buildings, anything that has to do with the schools, closed buildings, open buildings, anything that belongs to the school. They'll pick up all that trash, but it's not charged to the school department. So when the school department is saying we have X amount of dollars, they're not paying for trash. We don't have enough money, but you're still not even paying for trash. And that should be a part of the school department budget.
Can I ask you something? When you hear Jazel say public-private partnership, he's specifically talking about what's going on in New Bedford with ABC and how it's worked out for them. Mm-hmm. My question is for you, because you you've really focused so much on sanitation with all the information you have. Do you feel as though the public-private partnership is going to focus on just residential trash, or is the contract that if we were to imagine it, if it happened, if we were to have a contract with a private company, would it be a little higher because now this private company is going to be taking care of all the trash, sanitation for housing, public school, the entire process?
Well, if you notice at last night's debate, Sutter said something that I made a note of, which was that the former mayor already made a contract. We were already under contract with a company for 5 years. Now, it was referring to Waste Zero because it confused me. I didn't think it was Waste Zero. I thought he was referring to the dump and Allied, which would make sense because where is our trash going right now? To the dump.
Right.
It's not technically a dump, it's a transfer station. But nonetheless, that's where our trash goes.
Welcome, caller. You're on City Talk Forever.
Good morning, gentlemen and ladies.
Good morning.
Great job last night. Awesome job.
You don't have to put the microphone.
Thank you. All I did was read questions.
This covers that. You just have to talk.
You did a good job.
Thanks.
TJ, you did a great job too Monday night.
Thank you, Rick.
Yeah, we meant to get some Monday and Tuesday. We just haven't gone there yet.
Talk about that.
People not paying attention. Was Reggie actually paying attention to what was going on? How many times did that guy ask you? Repeat the question.
Alexander definitely asked once. The problem with Renzi is that I don't think he could stop stepping over his own words.
Somebody's paying him to be there.
I mean, he looked completely uncomfortable in his own skin last night.
Mm-hmm.
It just looked so hard. It looked like a train wreck in front of everyone, and I don't know. Even watching the replay was bad.
That's definitely not a person I want to represent me.
Hey, Rick. If you would have told me that RBT would have sounded better than Robert Alexander and Renzi put together, I wouldn't have believed it. But he did.
How he did.
He did. I mean, it's true. He actually made some key points.
Marijuana and stuff like that. I know the guy's full of, sometimes a back end of a dog, but
Back end of a dog. Nice.
or full, I should say. But I think he did a good job. He's gonna, get done a couple of times too. But Sutter got on Jago about approving the budget last year. But this budget here, he didn't approve. I think it was a much worse budget. Basically, $4 million in the hole, then he gives a part-time job away for $92,000, and another part-time job at $56,000. Why would you even approve a budget like that? I mean, it's beyond me.
See, I want to go out. I want to kind of go with that thought of yours. You have Sutter, who said that last year's budget, the 2014 budget? That's what the 2014 budget. He said that was a bad budget. But then of course you had Jay Zulu says, well, you say it's a bad budget, you were paying attention, but then you also in the same breath saying you weren't really paying attention. So how would he really know? The other thing I want to mention is, and the other thing I wanted to mention with this budget is, how can you say that this budget was a better financially sound budget when you're introducing a $10 fee? You can call it a fee. It is a tax to try to cover up a hole in another portion of the budget that's supposed to be completely self-sustaining anyway. I mean, it's getting to the point where it's ridiculous. What's next year's budget going to be? $300 million? What else are you gonna take away from people at this point?
Well, after Jay was talking about the taxes, investing compared to Fall River, but his taxes being a little bit high, and he added up the fee. So last place I said, well, I'm gonna see something. So when I went in, I checked my taxes, house comparable to Bethany. I'm actually paying more money. When I add in the $240, $140 for the $10 fee, and another $120 for the bag, $10 a month on bags.
Yeah.
And then the stormwater runoff fee.
Yep.
My water meter fee. I'm paying more money in the long run, really, than people in the the best of us. The same size house, same size lot.
And that was something that Jazel made a very clear point of yesterday, last night, was that you can say that our fees were a little lower than whatever, but we have our taxes were a little lower, but we have fees that make up for it, like the CSO project, the stormwater fee. You have the $10 a month fee. You have the bags. You have the water meter fee. You have every fee thrown at the citizens. That by the time you're all said and done, you're either at or over what New Bedford's paying. So you have no argument there. There is no argument.
Well, as a property owner, I'd rather see that roll into a tax, so it's right off at the end of the year, so I can get something back from my investment. Right now, I can't write none of that stuff off and get some of that back.
Yep.
I want to say, because obviously you guys have been talking about this, but Sam Sutter kind of tried to set up the conversation. He tried to frame it. And you hear people do this on WSAR quite a lot. They'll say, oh, everywhere else the taxes are higher, right? Mm-hmm. Oh, I want to do a compare. If there's one thing that if there's one thing that Sam Sutter does almost as much as remind everybody he was the DA, he talks about comparative analysis and how much he loves comparative analysis, okay? But it's a setup if he only talks about taxes and he doesn't talk about fees. That's why Nikki's conversation months and months and months ago about what is a tax and what is a fee has been so vital in all this conversation, because he can say other cities are doing this, that, and the third with their tax base. But we need to maybe come up with a fee base or a tax/fee base. So, because ultimately what we're talking about is citizen expenditure, right? That's really what we're talking about. Whether it's a fee, whether it's a tax, it's citizen expenditure, right? So if you're expending a lot as a citizen, it doesn't matter what the tax base is. It matters what the entire process is. It matters what burden do the citizens carry in comparison to what the government is putting on them. And right now in this city, and compared to other quote gateway cities, it's not very appealing. It's not very appealing at all. And really, you know, what's the saving grace in Fall River is the low rents. And that might change now because the government's starting to hammer that. You know, one of the best questions, one of the absolute best questions, and Jordan had the best answer. Taxing nonprofit charities. Mm-hmm. Oh my goodness. So we're at the point now where we're looking to now go after charities for money. Like, are we that backwards in our thinking that we can't look at changing this whole, we can't touch the salaries of the government, we can't touch the salaries of the government, that we're going to actually go after charities and nonprofits now? Are you freaking kidding me? Are you kidding me?
Well, some of these systems do get back to the city. You know, it might be a little bit here, a little bit there, but they do get back to the city. This time got some bicycles. You know, I mean, yeah, it's not a lot of money, but you know, it's $5,000 if it doesn't come out of the taxpayers. So. Yeah,
but you also have to understand, you're pretty much tapped out every single resource on gaining money for the government to try to curb or try to at least slow down their cash flow issue. Because you know, $277 million should be more than enough for this city to survive, and we should have we should have at least a $25 to $30 million reserve waiting for us in the event that we need to do something with it. It's pretty pathetic that we cannot survive. We cannot survive on $270 million. Well, it's a kind of difficult.
The other thing is, you know, when towards the end, well, not the end, man, you know, Sam Sutter said that they make it his mission or his priority to find Jordan. So it was his mission or his priority to make sure.
He said it was going to be his number one priority tomorrow, today, to find him.
That to me is a big threat. That's a threat.
Yep.
I'm going to take all my resources, everything I have, and I'm going to come after you.
I said this earlier in the show, Rick, under no circumstances, no matter how bad you may think Jordan was, from any perspective, should a mayor ever try to do that ever. Yeah.
When you come up on national TV like that and say, I'm going to make it my priority to
Local public access.
make sure I get you, that's a threat.
Well, I mean,
For any elected official should never do that. He's no better than Clinton or Clinton taking people to court for means on.
Absolutely. It confirms that thought process that we've been saying the government and especially our local government has had, that people are going to use their positions of authority to try to come down on a citizen. It's absolutely 100% not what a mayor should be doing. Period. It's so vital to not have that kind of thing going on.
Jordan was bringing out the word in Sam Sutton, the truth, I should say, of Sam Sutton.
Yep.
And what he really is, and who he really is. And he didn't like getting no more, so that's why he threatened Jordan like he did.
Yeah, I mean, again, like Jordan was definitely picking at him and going at him and jabbing, but Jordan not once said, I'm going to do this to you. Jordan did say, I want you to find me. You know what I mean? I've been asking to be fined for a long time, but it took getting on stage in a public forum for Sam Sutton to finally do something, because he felt as though his pride was being challenged, right? So instead of handling it like a professional, he was like, you know what? I'm gonna do this, and he got his 9 or 15 people to clap for him in that forum for it. Fine, whatever. But you gotta be kidding me. Any mayor, any person in a position of public office should never try to flex their muscle that way. It shows exactly, it confirms exactly what we've been talking about. Sorry, buddy.
If he does have to pay a fine, I'll throw him $25. I'll pay for it.
He's not going to have to pay a fine.
see, this is where I
would break your arm before you let you pay for this
see. This is where I kind of wish that that and I'm gonna give Mike D'Olivera a shout out. This is where I kind of wish that he was still on the air, because on Necessary Media, that we definitely know who the No Flex Zone Award winner would have been for this week, because you have Sutter flexing his muscle, and he knows he can't do that, especially with him being in the office he's at. It's hilarious, but for those 9 to 12 people that were clapping in the audience during the debate, you had probably hundreds watching at home being like, "Wow, what a pompous, you know what?"
Fill in the blank.
Yeah, you can fill it in with whatever you want, but it just goes to show you that I have a feeling that all of this soft-spoken junk that he's been talking, this is who Sam Sutter really is. A vindictive guy who just got into office, and now he's finally getting exposed for the person he really is.
If you think about it, he was hiring his friends as soon as he walked in the door. He was trying to create and expand government as soon as he walked in the door. And he also today, or yesterday, I should say, showed that he's willing, if he's challenged publicly, he's willing to try to use his position of authority to come down on somebody. I mean, very, very clear. You've seen it.
And what this is, that last budget, Flanagan did go up and hire all kinds of people after that. This budget here, we knew it was a bad budget. It was already in a hole. Then Sam's going up and hiring all these people. It's ridiculous.
Not only is he hiring these people, but he's giving these people crazy salaries on a part-time schedule.
And let's be clear, Sam didn't know anything about the budget.
That nobody's doing nothing about it. So I hope the council is ready for me when it comes to counseling, because every single counselor says that they support our firefighters. Pat Stacy said she'll do whatever it takes to get these guys them SCBAs. I've been up there telling them they need SCBAs. These things are expired.
You had a fantastic phone call on Bob Carr's show.
Yes, he did.
Hey, you had a fantastic phone call on Bob Carr's show 2 days ago. Excellent call.
I agree.
They need these SCBAs.
Yep.
I mean, that's their life support. That's like sending a police officer to a cockfight without bullets in his gun.
Yeah.
Weapons. Where's that going to get him?
I think it was Jordan who mentioned it, and I mentioned it on Monday about the bonding for brown barrels instead of looking out for the fire department with the bonding. Again, bonding in general is not something that I'm completely ecstatic about, especially today, considering all the past bonding that we've done. But if we are in a position that's strapped for the safety of the fire department, safety of the people that are that need the fire department. That's a bond that I'm okay with. Of course, I don't want to get too extravagant with it, but it is a bond I'm okay with personally. You know what I mean?
Those SCBAs, every single firefighter is $900,000. That's what it's gonna cost. $900,000.
Hey, Rick.
I think it's worth $900,000.
Hey, Rick. Yeah, I got a quick question. How do you know how much each one of them are per apparatus? Do you know how much they are each roughly?
No, I didn't have to break that down for me. I just had to give me the total price for.
Okay, so you said about, I mean, just under $1 million, like $900,000 would cover all of it, right?
It would cover some of it.
$900,000 to replace everything SCBA, or everything SCBA.
Office furniture, barrels.
Okay,
The math on these SCBAs,
Oh,
they don't really last as long.
no. We don't have to go that far.
If they go for fire, they take on heat exposure. That's one of the lens on those things. It keeps the lens covered.
Right.
These guys, they inhale all this toxic chemical.
Now, hold on a second. $900,000 just to replace that piece of apparatus for every firefighter. Now we don't have to go. Now we can go. We can talk about the $650,000 for the brown barrels, but I would rather go up my alley. I would rather talk about the $1 million+ that we bonded for the computer software. Do you realize that money could have come out of the budget for it? It would have been better for the city, and that $1 million that we bonded for it would have covered all of that, plus potentially started paying for at least one new truck, one new piece of apparatus for the firefighters, so we can fight fires. I mean,
But this look, they can use it up the trucks. Right now, their main thing is they need SCBA.
Okay,
That's what they want.
okay, and that's fine. But you also have to understand that some of these trucks are failing. So I don't mind putting the money toward that so we can at least get one new truck somewhere so we have access to it. But just that one bond that's going to take 10 years to go through, and we're going to go and we're going to go through the lives of the computers and the software and all that junk well before we're done paying for it. But that bond for the apparatus, for the firefighters, for a new truck potentially, that would have been a much more sound investment for that bond instead of computers and software and training. So I'm sorry. You have counselors that are complaining and begging, if we could do this, we could. Well, you know what? You had the ability to do so, but you went somewhere else.
That's right.
So, boom.
Yeah.
Boom. So, well, I don't think that the council's ready for them. So I'm going to come after them. They all said that they were going to do it, so I'm going to see.
That's right.
How honest they are, or if it's just another political scam. They got to be ready.
We're approaching the final minutes of our show. Thank you for calling, Rick Barlow. Appreciate that, sir.
I'll see you guys around someday.
Thanks for calling, Rick.
See you
We
later.
appreciate it.
See you later.
One of the funniest guys in the recall, man. Celio probably is the funniest guy in the recall. Rick Barlow.
Jay Romalo has the greatest meme.
There's a whole lot of humor in this.
Celio's my lucky charm.
Yeah. But I'm really glad that City Talk is back on. I don't talk much about my campaign for city council, but I will say this. I wanted to be the only guy in the whole entire city council debate to not have notes, to not walk in with pre-set speeches and anything like that. Was able to say what I wanted to say. And I feel good about it. I feel good about the campaign that I've been able to run. And I appreciate every single person out there that's been listening, that's been paying attention, that's been holding signs for me. It's been absolutely insane. So no matter what happens next week, just thanks. I'm just thanking everybody. I won't be able to do the show tomorrow, but Morgado and Nikki will be here. So by next week, we'll know whether or not at least I got past the primary. On that note, we can't do music anymore because YouTube almost put the hammer down on me because I was playing a bunch of copywritten music on my show, Michael Jackson, Karate Kid, whatever else music I was playing at the time. So eventually down the road, we'll have to figure something out for our closing out. But I'm just going to say have a great week. And Nikki and Morgado have something to say, and then I'm out of here.
I would just say toodaloo. See you later.
And the only thing I got is like, if you're gonna vote for any of the incumbents, be sure you know what you're voting for. All of these guys are just making their case to try to get back in. And
do your homework.
Yeah, do your homework. And when people say something, make sure you could take them to task on it. And with that, we'll catch y'all tomorrow.
I thought you were gonna say with that I yield. That would have been perfect.
Hey, we'll be on tomorrow, just minus me. Have a great one. Take care.
Bye guys.
Bye, guys.